Welcome to Unity Center, Austin, Sunday. And today we're talking about love. In my article this week, I said, I begin this day with love in my heart. And I want to share this. See, this whole idea of love is now becoming out more and more. For what I'm aware of myself, and I believe others, it's just a buzzword. It's a word we use when we don't know where else to go. And so I wanted to really dig into it, look at it, and say, okay, where is it, and what is love, if I can use that terminology? It's still an ambiguity because most of us have never isolated it and really understood and felt the expression of it through ourselves. And I'm hoping we can have that experience here and in the future. Because the idea behind it is we know the neurons in the brain, when you start creating a new thought pattern, the neurons in your brain change. And you connect with different things than you connected with before. So love is the source of the lifestyle and the lives we want to, we want to live. In other words, in today's world, how can I reduce suffering? How can I reduce disease? How can I reduce, problems in my life? How can I become more abundant? How can I become healthier? And the answer to that is in the word love. We say let go and let God. So what does that mean? And the understanding of those ideas is what I believe humanity and us and me are looking for. How do I make life work? How do I create a lifestyle that is comfortable and productive for me? Excuse me, evidently I'm coughing. I'm bringing stuff up. The Heart Math Institute that we studied with last week in Unity Village, they say heart convergence. Now the definition of heart convergence is the heart is calm. The heart shows on a graph steady, even pulses. And they are saying the heart is not just a blood pump, it is the center and the source of love in our life. And they can measure it. They can actually measure it with a thing. They put it on your ear, believe it or not, and they can see pictures of your heart. So what it says is it's a state of calm, a peaceful state of healing in your heart, and it's measured by the rhythm of the heart. And they know when we slow down and bring in love ideas into our heart, the heart actually changes its energy that it's transmitting. Okay? Now, the heart needs words like love, peace, joy, okay, compassion. What are some of the other positive words we can say?
Gratitude.
Attitude, good attitude.
Or gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah, big one.
Yeah. Attitude's a good one too.
Attitude's a good one. But if you stop and think about that, that's not where the world dwells. The world dwells over here in upset, anger, retribution, revenge, get back. And when the heart is over here, it is dissonance. It actually doesn't beat completely evenly in its convergence point. So the way we get back over here, where the heart actually communicates with us, is love, compassion, gratitude, and those are all things we talk about. You know, you talk about writing down 10 things that you're happy about each day. Okay, Oprah's famous for that, and other self-development. But in doing that, you're creating convergence with the heart, which actually connects you more and more with spirit. So the connection with spirit is love, the energy we call love. What is love? What is it? And it's not something that we gather, it's something we express. I'm aware that a lot of prisons are full of people that are there because somebody dissed them, if you're familiar with that conversation, which means they showed anything other than love. So when I expect negativity coming toward me, what am I ready to get? The negativity. And that's why the idea of I start this day with love in my heart and then continue love in my heart. See, and I'm going to say this, in Unity, we have learned to control our thinking so we don't go negative thinking. Everybody there? And have you ever tried to not do something? It's like, the old adage is, anytime I get pushed, I'm going to push back. It's human nature. So in that training, we have spent hours, and I have anyway, I don't know about you folks, but I spent hours and hours trying to not think that way. And anytime I try to not do something, what do I wind up doing?
Do it.
Yeah, see, the law of attraction says whatever I think about, I create. So if I'm trying not to do something, I'm actually creating doing it. Mm-hmm. And I know that's counterintuitive, but stop and think about the rationale behind that. So, why don't I just go over here and express love? Good question, right? So maybe I have to stop trying to not do this and come over here and just express love. Because the natural energy of the heart is love, and the love is expressed out of us. Okay? It comes out of us. I'll say that again. It comes out of us. It's a very, very interesting dynamic if you stop and think about it. So the things like, well, that's one reason Ho'oponopono is so powerful for some of us, because it's just 5 phrases now. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you, which is gratitude. And then I forgive myself. And forgiveness, by the way, is one of those positive emotions. So take a look at the ideas that work. Okay? And really, the gratitude journal, the idea of a daily journal where I write down what's going on, the idea that if I'm upset about something, I have to express it. One of the biggest issues in psychology is people get upset and then they cut it off. Oh, that's not good. But the truth is I have to allow that to complete itself and replace it with love. Okay? Everybody get that? See, I have to allow it to complete itself. Yes. I have to allow issues. I have to allow jerks, in my opinion, to complete. Now, and I'm saying, we all have those issues, those hot buttons. So when I try to stuff that hot button, I wind up dealing with the hot button over and over again. But if I let it complete itself, and then I started sharing love. And I don't have to share love, I believe, for a specific thing. I just need to share love for the universe. That happens to a lot of prayer warriors. God bless her, Francis is in that category now. Okay? And I know, I hear that she expresses love all day long. And some of us, it's like, you ever wander around wondering what you should do next? Like I don't have my to-do list out. So, oh my goodness. Okay? But it's time to just slow down and express love. If you have a problem in the family, which some of us do, maybe the idea isn't to pray for them. Maybe the idea is to express love. Okay? And so I'm looking at this more and more and more. The idea that we are inherently expressions of God, and how do we express ourselves is it through our heart. Now, the mind can figure all kinds of reasons not to. Yes? Mm-hmm. And it makes up stories and it does all kinds of things. So the idea is now, and Course of Love, which some of us are studying on Wednesdays during the day, talks about the time for learning is ended and the time for knowing, which is the heart knows. We don't have to figure things out anymore. All we have to do is go into the heart and learn the process of going into the heart and then connect the mind and the heart. By the way, Heart Math Institute has proven that the heart sends signals to the brain within a millisecond before the brain gets it. So in other words, if an impulse comes in through our eyes, the heart reacts to it first. Okay? Now, one of the problems is, anybody ever heard of the still small voice? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The heart is a still small voice and can be easily overridden by the ego, which is in the intellectual mind. So do you get the mechanics of it? So the idea is learning to train our heart so that we can listen to it. The phrase, Madeline and I were in a workshop, must have been 20 years ago, a marriage workshop. We have that workshop. Some point in time we can put it together. It's mostly relationships. But the whole idea behind that workshop, and over again, I think it was 6 events, soften your heart. Soften your heart. I'll say it again, soften your heart. Because the heart, see, the mind gets involved in things, and all of a sudden you hear your heart pumping, I'm going to get that SOB, or whatever you want to say. I don't say that. But you see, we are wired. Now, the Dr. Carolyn Leaf that Valerie and Greg brought to us, she says we are hardwired for love. Mm-hmm. In other words, we are love, period, innately, and even though we cover it up with our intellect, we are still pumping out love. So it's an interesting conversation. It really is. And I was really, by the way, you can Google her, she'll pop up for you. Okay, where you can talk to, no, I don't want to put people on you, but I was going to say talk to Valerie because she has a link. Okay? She makes a reference to Matthew 5:38. Matthew 5:38 is a quote that some people have a hard time with. Everybody ready? Be ye perfect, etc., etc., etc. So I'm going to say that again. Be ye perfect. Would you agree that's automatically gone? I'm not perfect. I've got my sins and my guilt and my... Okay? It says be ye perfect. And I don't know about you. See, I'm back to when people ask me, do I believe in Jesus? I say yes. And then I believe what he said. Because I have to take the whole package. So how do I be perfect if I'm sinful and guiltful and all this stuff? And the Bible tells me, for grace are you saved by faith, so I'm already there, but it sure doesn't feel like it. So and it says, be ye perfect. And what she says is, the way you think and the emotions you choose is the road to becoming perfect. In other words, what is our potential as a human being? Jesus said, these things I do, ye shall do even greater things. Does it say that? I'll hold the Bible up if you want me to. But that's what it says. And I either believe it or I don't believe it. And these things I do, ye shall do even greater things is the conversation. And then it says, be ye perfect. So what is our potential as a human being? Hello? Sure doesn't look like it. The world is kind of imperfect around us, yes? And what's the key? And I'm convinced the key is expressing love. And we all have our issues. Family issues come up, next door neighbor issues come up. Somebody cuts me off in the car, that one bothers me. Anybody else? I get a kick out of it when we pull to a stoplight and everybody's waiting to get off the stoplight ahead. And my goodness, if you get off the stoplight before the one next to you, they got to catch up with them. And so there's all this competition. And one of the skills for the 21st, 22nd century is collaboration. That's working together for the common good. What's the common good? Joy, peace, happiness, abundance, health. That's the common good. In my opinion, I have to be careful with that. Okay? And how do we do that? We learn to express love. Okay? Pretty simple. Now, love is an energy promoted by our thoughts and emotions. So it's actually an energy that we bring in from spirit and express through ourselves. And the truth is, as far as I can tell, love itself has to be self-generated for it to come back. Again, referring to some of the prisons around, when they learn to reverse that hate and anger and become away from victims, they learn to start expressing love, and then love comes the other way. It comes back. Donald and Richard are putting together a ministry for the local prison in Travis County. Yes?
The Kyle prison.
Okay, got it. And in that process is learning to be still, learning to be quiet, learning to be one with spirit, okay? Which is our grounding. So one of the keys is stillness, quiet. That's why Pat has gone and learned centering prayer and has brought centering prayer into our conversation, into our congregation, because learning to be in the stillness is one of the first steps. And it ain't easy. Anybody figured that one out? Because when you still your mind, all the junk comes up. Okay. With your shaker's head. So being still is one of the keys to getting rid of the stuff and learning to express the love through it. And how do we learn it? You do it. until the brain cells take over. Now, one of the things that is constantly referred to is growing into, becoming over time. In other words, it's not, some people have done it, there's no question about that. Instantaneous, what we call snapping. You've seen people snap. But for most of us, myself included, it takes time to regenerate the idea. What is love? How does it feel? What is it from me? What is stillness? What is quiet? What is being one with spirit so that I am not connected to all my stored information? So it's a learning to quiet the mind and then also nurture the heart and allow the heart to go into convergence. That's a word we're going to be using a lot. Okay? I don't even want to talk about the negative emotions, but Psalm 23:7, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. There's the Bible again, clearly telling us that the heart is the center of life and the source of all our understanding. And it takes time to get there. Okay? The next thing I want to talk about, which I've already talked about, was rather than try to stop negative thinking, maybe the idea is to start pumping in positive thinking. And I begin this day with love in my heart. That 20 minutes, and most meditation modalities that we have been through teach 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, not hours and hours. Some people spend an hour, 2 hours, which is wonderful. They want you to learn to do that. 20 minutes, and it takes time. But in that 20 minutes, you can be connected with the universe and then begin to start expressing love. I begin this day with love in my heart. I keep saying that over and over and over again. I did want to share something with you from Course of Love. And that's from chapter 32. I mentioned it in the article this week, which is in the newsletter. By the way, if you don't get the newsletter, please give Madeline your email. We'll make sure you're in it. Okay? Oh, wait a minute. I've got to get my eyes, my glasses. Okay? I'm going to work on healing those rascals. Okay, this is actually from the first and second paragraph. Now you can see that the need to look to a different source. So it's time to look to a different source. If you look around the world, what has created the world out there? Everybody's thinking. Again, 7 billion people thinking into the cloud or the oversoul have created this out there. And it depends on how far you want to take it. I believe we can take it all the way to all the issues we're dealing with. But it says there's a new source. Now you can see that you need to look to a different source. The ego, the mind, is not the thing that takes us to nirvana, if I can use that terminology. That source is love, and it is available in every situation but for the asking. Problem is, I'm not aware that I learned how to ask. Really? And then it goes on. What would love have me do? So if I really felt love, what would I do today? And it said, what would love have me see? What would you look at? We know that people see what they want to see. We know there's a thing called the reticular activating system that literally blocks out things you don't want to see or you don't believe are true. We know that. Okay, that's a scientific fact. Then we go on and say, what would love have me say? What kind of language do I use? And the words that I use, that I speak and I think are creative. And so am I speaking words of love or am I speaking words of anger? Then it goes on and says, when you call upon love, you call upon your source with a capital S. So our source energy that it brings into this world is love. And who does it come here through? Each one of us individually. So our world is run by the amount of love that we bring back into the universe and the group. Can you feel the heart in this room going into convergence? There's an energy here now that wasn't there before. Because people are slowing down, you're starting to think about it. And I can literally feel it here. I'd like to stay here all day. It's kind of wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the experience that I have when we finish the meditation.
Yeah. And that is present right now. Okay? And then when you call upon love, you call upon your source. When you seek the wisdom of your heart, you call upon me. That's the Christ. When you seek the truth that is in your mind, you call upon the Holy Spirit, which is now connected with the heart. So it's a whole new world. And I'd like to take a minute. We've done it in the past, but I'd like to do it again. It's a quick exercise of going into the heart. So if you would play this game with me, just find a comfortable spot. And we're going to go into the silence for just a few moments, okay? And we don't have to disconnect from anything because we're already one with Spirit. We are already hooked to the universe. So I want you to take a deep breath and let it out. Another breath and let it out. And just sink into your awareness where you are. And now focus on the region of your heart. You can put your hand on your heart if it helps you. Just take a minute and become aware of the heart. Just feel it. You might even say thank you for taking care of me, for beating, keeping me alive. Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for loving me. And I want you to take a moment and literally, easily soften your heart. Just feel it soften. Feel it get warm. And now I want you to remember a time when you were expressing love. You were with a friend, a spouse, a child. A moment of time when you felt absolute love. And I want you to go there with your softened heart and just remember that time. And now as you feel it, actually breathe through your heart. Each breath in, each breath out. Do it through your heart. You might even feel your heart melting and softening. And this is what we call the heart convergence. This is when your heart is connected with your source. And just for a minute ask, is there anything for me to know at this time about my life, about my affairs? And if you get an answer, remember it. You might want to write it down when we come back. So take a moment and be thankful. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for your presence. I know it, I feel it, and I know I am in it. And then when you're ready, come back and be with us. So everybody take a deep breath. I don't know about you, but there's a commonality. And this is a power group. I refer to the group as the power group because, you know, it's like David Hawkins talks about the power, the spiritual power. And that's the ability to know and create out of nothing. So congratulations. I would like to close with a reading. This is a new book I got. I had to get heart intelligence. This is written by one of the founders of heart math. And it's a compendium of a lot of their ideas. But it says here, faster change and growth seem to be evolutionary imperatives of our time. And I'm bringing more and more things. And since I started talking about it, things have been popping up everywhere. They're even talking about how we're going to, put in chips in our brain to help our thinking get faster. And special chemicals to bring all kinds of stuff. And this goes on and says, one of the most important aspects of the changes taking place in the emergence of a more heart-based awareness or heart intelligence. Learning to access the heart's intelligence is the key to managing the speed of personal and planetary change while creating a new life experience of increased fulfillment. Can I repeat that last phrase? By creating a new life experience of increased fulfillment. So, if dwelling in the heart is going to take us up and forward, and you as a group are here to share that with our world, okay? And I'm coming to an end now. You want to talk?
As we go out into this week, and as we connect with our hearts, and we connect our hearts with divine minds, let the words that we speak to others and let our thoughts about ourselves reflect the truth of the I am.
The I am. See,
And the
the I
daily
am.
word. Remember the truth of who you are. Remember the truth of who everyone that you come in contact is.
Yeah.
With
And
love.
that's the idea of love. Okay? And that's what we're talking about. I am going to finish this. Learning to access the heart's intelligence is the key to managing the speed of personal and planetary change. Throughout this book, we will explore heart intelligence. So we're going to hear more from this book. Frankly, I've only gotten into the first chapter. And maybe we'll start a book study on this. We're going to do lots of things. But Valerie, thank you. Because the great I am. See, when Moses asked, what is the name of God? The word was, I am that. I am. So God is, I am that. And it's pointing itself. So we are the expression of God. And our job is to express love. So maybe we start figuring it, because we're going to have to learn how to do it. Because we've been trained not to. We've been trained to not think that rather than think love. So I'm encouraging you, let's take an experiment and try that this week. I begin this day with love in my heart, and I continue every day. And see what happens. Maybe we'll talk about it next week, okay? So, thank you. Thank you. I love you so much. I'm complete. Next.